Yeah, let's do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tommy Joyner Radio Show, the Productized Me edition. I'm here with my boy Ryan Mulvihill, who I'm super excited to have as a guest. My first guest. This is my first official piece of content that I produced in this way, and I'm delighted. And I was super intentional about the person that I chose to be on with me because this guy in particular and myself have sort of a unique relationship. We've actually done like a two-person mastermind on and off over the course of the last, like, I don't know, maybe even 3 or 4 years. Wow. Um, Periodically, and I think we've actually brought a lot of different worlds together all over the world, literally, in Asia and Colombia, and in all other places in between. And we've facilitated a lot of good connections through each other, man. So Ryan, dude, super grateful for you, man, and happy to have you here, bro. How are you?
Man, I'm doing awesome. I just got to say, I've been so excited for this call. I'm just really excited to jump into this. And yeah, it's all true. Just seeing your growth as well as all the advice you've given me and the help that you've given me to grow my agency has been huge. So yeah, I'm stoked for this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man. And I think just to give the listeners like a bit of perspective in terms of like what our intention is with this type of content that we're putting together right now is like anybody that is like a freelancer or has like a digital marketing agency of some sort, or is experimenting with trying to sell packaged or productized services, and kind of anywhere in between. If you fall within that realm, like these type of conversations are going to be really relevant for you. Going to try to be as actionable as possible. And I think the thing that's really cool about this is like, this is actually like boots on the ground type knowledge. This is people that are actually in the space, generally making between like 20 and 50K a month. So like real business owners that are trying to do big things, and some of whom have already achieved like a lot of traction. So in Ryan's case, he's gotten a lot of traction with Email All Stars, and has a lot of cool stuff going on with that. So I guess, Ryan, man, if you wouldn't mind, let's just jump into, like, I jumped ahead a little bit, but let's jump into like your backstory, how you started out, and like what brought you to where you are now with your business. And like there was a lot of you and I like jamming in the meantime in between there over the last few years
Yeah.
as well. So like, yeah, feel free to go in on any of that.
Yeah, I think it all started off about almost 4 years ago now when I was a broke boy moving to Chiang Mai, Thailand to try and figure out how to make money online. So I think that's a pretty common story. Basically, I was starting out with an idea to write a book and start a personal brand. And then I actually ended up writing a book in Thailand, but realized that the whole personal branding route, it's a whole lot easier once you have wealth of experience.
Mm.
So I started looking into trying to freelance and get started with that. Um, I will say I almost went broke in Thailand, actually. So
Worst
that's
place,
just a little bit of my backstory.
worst places,
What's that?
worst places to go broke.
Yeah, one of the worst places to go broke. Needing to shamefully ask your parents for a plane ticket back home was not something that I was keen to do, and I decided I was going to figure out how to make money online, and that's how I started getting into freelance copywriting. And uh, I already had a knack for copywriting. It was something that I was really interested in. I loved reading psychology books, and copywriting was just a natural offshoot of that. And as I started getting into it and learning more and starting to get my first few clients, I actually ran into one of our mutual friends, Josh Barad, who I was helping out with a little bit of copywriting for a course he was launching. And then he said, "Hey, I have this friend, Tommy Joyner, who's actually launching a course for freelancers on Upwork. You should get in touch with him." And then we got on a phone call, and that's how this magical relationship started about maybe 3.5 years ago now.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. And like, I love how things like line up and happen so organically. In terms of like how you started, like I know that like for people starting out as well, who are gonna represent like a portion of the people listening to this, like they're really interested in ideation. So can you talk a little bit about how you figured out how to monetize like that particular skill set, or like what your thoughts were like going into that process?
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started out, I was just doing any kind of copywriting I could get my hands on. And because there's copywriting can cover a whole lot of different areas of businesses like sales pages, ad copy, um, sales scripts, VSLs, etc. So there's a ton of different areas that you could dive into for copywriting. And actually, after speaking to you, I realized that I really needed to start niching down into just one specific area of copywriting, because if you're an expert in everything, nobody wants to hire you. If you're an expert in one thing, then all the people who need that one thing, they want to work with you. So out of all the copywriting I did, I actually enjoyed email marketing the most, because it's just sort of like a closed ecosystem where it can be as complex or as easy as you want it to be. You can put these emails in specific parts of already existing funnels to just make them flow more easily, give people a better experience. And all of the copywriting for emails was more bite-sized, which I could really wrap my head around. Writing long form sales copy was just not something that I found fun. But taking an idea and working it into an email was something that I really enjoyed. And I started to get some pretty amazing results for clients. So that actually kicked off where I started niching down into only email copywriting, and then further niching down into e-commerce email copywriting, just because that was one of the most profitable types of email marketing that I could find and also do very well.
Mm. I think this is really, really important for people starting out, or maybe even people who already have some traction as well, in terms of how to like refine what they're doing. Because I think oftentimes people have a real struggle with focusing on like one particular idea in one direction, and until you have that focus, you can't actually do things further along the line, like starting a recurring monthly subscription business or anything related to that matter, if you don't at least have this part figured out first. So I think one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm glad you didn't talk about how you tried to niche down in a specific industry first, is like you have to niche down on a specific service first. So in Ryan's case, like he started out, he knew he liked writing. He knew he was like had like creative capacity and could bring value in that way. He knew people paid money for writing through looking at courses or looking at websites like Upwork and different freelancing stuff, etc. And then he experimented with different types of copywriting before he ultimately landed on the one that he was like, okay, cool. I feel like some resonance with this one. This is the one I'm going to go forward with. So what happened after you decided that email marketing was the thing?
Yeah, so that was once I decided email marketing was the thing, the decision came about a little bit more organically than I think for most people, where I was looking into the market and what jobs people were posting on Upwork actually, and I saw that there was not a huge amount of people looking for email marketing help, but there was a sufficient amount for uh, posts. There was around maybe 20 to 30 people posting jobs on or not 20 to 30, maybe 15 decent fit projects being posted on Upwork per day. So then I realized that, all right, there is actually a market demand for what I want to do. And that's how it helped me with actually figuring out that that was a good niche to be in before I started going all in on just doing email marketing. And also, it helps a lot if you can test a market. But for example, I didn't just pick email marketing out of the blue. I looked for the demand first, and I looked for projects that I could complete. Even with my limited skill set, I saw that I can very quickly learn what I need to know to get started on this. And then the industry niche that actually came about much more naturally when after I figured out the service I wanted to offer, then I could see what industries were the easiest to work with. And even within that, there were many different routes I could have gone. I could have worked for people in the info product space with active campaign, but that required a lot more technical ability that than I was comfortable with. I could have done much more large cold email marketing campaigns, but those required a different skill set that I wasn't that comfortable with. Small scale cold email marketing, that was very easy, but the large scale was very difficult. So there were many different routes, but then I just naturally found the niche and the people that were looking for people like me, and that really helped me start to build my service.
So there's always a niche within a niche, and the more that you have experience like actually doing projects and like looking for work like Ryan was, the more you have clarity in terms of like what's out there and like what actually resonates with you, which is something that I've really admired about Ryan from the start. And he talked about this concept that I have talked about before on some other podcasts that I've been on. It's just like harvesting demand. So when you're looking to sell something, like taking advantage of the existing demand and then matching that up with like what you're already doing, kind of like Ryan said, happens very organically. So at first, it helps you figure out like the type of service and narrow that down. And then as well, later, as happened in Ryan's case as well, like it helps you figure out the demand that's coming from certain different industries. And then you can niche down even further and have a little bit more of an industry focus, which is something that I think is super interesting. All right, dude. Well, talk a little bit about. I want to jump into like more like lead gen stuff here in a second, but before that, like I want to talk a little bit more about like how you went from like kind of the first part of your story to like what Email All Stars is right now. So talk a little bit about like talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it came in two different parts actually. I would say the first one was actually getting really good at the system for finding projects on Upwork, and trying to figure out a really good flow for that, because uh, doing that manually every single day was a very difficult process for me. It would take almost an hour or two to go out and pitch the projects, and I knew there had to be an easier way to systemize that. So that was a huge part of my growth, figuring out how to systemize Upwork and start getting clients on a more regular basis while doing pretty much no work to get them on phone calls. And then on the other side of it, there was the side of building my team, where I realized that I was hitting a ceiling with how much work I could do and how much money I could earn. And I could either try and become the best personal email copywriter in the world, where I would have to be working on projects every single day, or I could look to hire a team and train them so I could multiply my efforts across many, many different clients. So those were the two areas of my business that were definitely the most important in my growth. And for example, now we have one of the biggest email marketing agencies in the world, and I would say uh, we work with probably 30 different clients, maybe more, on every single month, and that number is growing every month as well. So yeah, it's those are definitely the two big areas that led to the growth of my business, were multiplying my efforts and also systemizing one of my big lead gen sources.
I love it, man. Can you talk to us a little bit about like what exactly entails like the main packages that Email All Stars right now? Like what exactly are you selling, just so people can wrap their head around like how you've packaged up your service? Because your service, I wouldn't describe it as a purely productized service. I would describe it as like a packaged service that you've done a really good job of making it kind of like look like a productized service. But I think it's a little bit different in the sense that it's more like packaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say that actually came from the need in the market as well. So when I was looking to start doing email marketing work, I was a very good writer, but I was a terrible graphic designer, and I only had a basic understanding of the technical systems you needed to set up to do email marketing.
Hmm.
And I started to see that in the market, that was actually a very common issue for a lot of people who were looking to hire email marketers, where they would find there was many people who could do writing really well, but then had no graphical knowledge. There were many people who could set up email marketing systems, integrate it with people's stores, etc., but they had no knowledge of the actual copywriting or the strategy. And then there were strategists who could tell you exactly what emails you need, but would not be able to do those for you. So I realized that if I could create an agency that could handle all of those pillars, the copywriting, the graphic design, the strategy, and the technical setup of email marketing, then I could be one of the best people in the market just by focusing on covering all those areas that people need help with in email marketing under one roof and having one amazing team to do it. So that was a big part of how I started creating the business. And then once we could handle everything under one roof, then more naturally we started to see how clients would probably want work from us on a regular basis, and how we could start just offering a more packaged service where clients come to us and we have a strategy call. Them and my email strategist have a call once per month where they talk about the promos they want to run. We review the results from the last month and what our plans are to grow out emails for the next month. And then we saw that that was the best way that we could provide regular service to these clients.
I love that, dude. And like one of the things that resonated with me that I think is helpful to a lot of people as well to understand is like you need data. Like you need to have experience doing things in order to understand like how you're even going to put these packages together, or how you're going to like combine the components that Ryan's talking about under one roof so that you can actually put that into an offer that meets the market's demands. And there's a couple different ways that you can do it. Like for example, the business that I recently sold, Content Pros, like we only focused on content writing in particular. It was a purely productized service that offered like one component of some of the stuff that Ryan's talking about, and it's a slightly different business model, but you can still have a lot of success. And it's actually imperative to do something like what Ryan did to actually make that transition from freelancing, like normal project-based work, to something that's more sustainable and scalable. So once Ryan identified the areas that were being requested for all the time, that allowed him to create packages and different types of offers that he could then sell to people. He already knew that people were asking for these things, but instead of having to be reactive and do everything that everybody was asking of him, he knew more or less what they wanted and then decided what he's going to offer and what he's not. And people can only buy what he's actually selling, which is one of the only ways to grow and also like maintain a lifestyle that's actually desirable, right?
Definitely. I will say there are a lot of clients that I actually have to turn down, mostly because they want work that is outside of email marketing. And if I look at my team's capabilities, yes, of course, we could handle things like website copywriting or sales page copywriting. We could potentially do that. But because we built such an amazing system for handling just email marketing, we know that we can finish those projects much more easily and deliver much higher quality than almost anyone else on the market. So if I were to take on work that was outside of my sphere of knowledge, then that would just really complicate our projects and drag them out, and it would just really not be worth it for us in the end. So that's why I just decided to only focus on email marketing. And if clients come to us saying that they need a whole lot of different areas, they want an all-in-one marketing agency, I can just very confidently tell them, no, sorry, that's not what we do. But we can handle the email marketing side of this project, but you will need to hire other experts to handle the rest of your sales funnel if that's what you're looking for.
That's the only way. The only way to build a business that is any sort of scalable or saleable, like a saleable asset moving forward. And it's the only way to like really maintain your sanity, which is one thing I want you to talk about as well. Is like, I think since I've known you, like you've done a really good job of maintaining your non-negotiables in life. So you more than a lot of other people that I know have built your business around your life. So can you talk about like what some of your non-negotiables are and like how you've managed to do such a good job of that? Because like Ryan is one of the least stressed out dudes I know. Like I'm sure you have your moments, but like you've always, like I've really admired, like if Ryan like wants to take 2 weeks off for a motorcycle trip, like he'll work that in and like it's no problem. Like he'll absolutely do that, and he has business that supports that. And does it in a way that like there's no guilt, there's no stress associated with that. And I think a lot of people have issues with that, man. So if you could just talk a little more.
Yeah, that definitely came with building just a badass team. Like for example, my business partner is actually this woman, Carly Craig, who's just a amazing badass when it comes to building out systems and just building out a really amazing team. So she was a huge part of growing my business. And I just found her and partnered with her over the last year or so. So that's been a huge accelerator for my business growth. Yeah, when you're building a business, you can really decide on the course of the business, especially when you're in the early stages. So you can, for example, for me, I always wanted a business that would definitely be location independent and would allow me to travel and live wherever I wanted to in the world. And I also was looking to build a business, the typical Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. I definitely don't live a 4-hour work week right now, but I can see the vision and the path that I'm building towards that. So you can, regardless of what stage your business is at now, if you can create a vision for what your business could look like in the future, where you can live your ideal lifestyle, then you can start moving, then the pieces for what you want to build out in your business will become much more actionable. So, and it'll be much more clear on what you need to build out next. So for my business, I realized that with the way my brain works, I can't manage just multiple things up in the air at once. If I have 5 clients asking for 5 different things, then even if they're only 20, like 10 to 20 minute tasks, I will take up an entire day trying to do all of those things just because I'm very bad at multitasking. So then I realized one of the first areas I needed to build out was project managers. And, or even before that, I was doing all the writing I could do. I'm very, very picky with my copywriting. So I realized I needed to hire other writers who were very high quality to handle the copywriting because I just couldn't keep on top of all of the work and the demand that was coming in. So that was the first area I built out. But then I started bringing on more clients, and I realized that if I wanted to have more freedom of my time, I needed to have project managers in to manage those clients. So that was the next area I brought in. And now I'm looking to build the both more lead generation systems as well as the sales team side of my business, because I'm still doing most of the sales calls, but I have my vision for what I want my ideal salesperson to look like and how I want to grow that side of my business. So that's what I'm working towards now. So it's not trying to build the perfect business right from the start. It's just seeing what are the biggest problem areas that you could fix and that you can work on, and focusing on those and slowly building out the different ops in your business. So yeah, that was just a little bit about my growth.
Dude, that's awesome. I think my big takeaway from that, and like what I want other people to realize, is like Ryan did like a lot of self excavation, like figured out like he has a lot of self awareness, like he knows what he's good at, knows what he's bad at, and knows what he like just refuses to do otherwise, and has just continued to chip away at building a business model that supports that as well. I think a lot of people get scared of like the agency model or the packaged or productized service model just because they think it's not as easy as like setting up an e-com store or like some of these other opportunities that you have online. But it can be done, and it can be done in a way that's like not stressful. And one of the reasons I brought Ryan on here is just to talk a little bit about that, because he makes really good money for himself. He's building an asset that he'll eventually be able to sell with the way it's constructed right now. And, if he wants to, and he's still able to live his ideal life. And I think he really enjoys a lot of what he's doing as well. So it's important to stay aligned and not jump around as well. And just realize like you can do everything that you want to do like within this space. If you're drawn to like trying different things, I think that's cool. But like there's a lot of power in service-based businesses.
Yeah. And actually, just to talk about that, that was one thing that I used to struggle with, where I was thinking that I wanted to create an e-commerce business and just focus all of my time and effort in that. But one of the areas that e-commerce and service-based businesses are very different is, for example, nothing can really happen to my business right now that could completely take it down. Nothing could happen. If I were to lose key players in my business, that would be a difficult, maybe 1 or 2 months, but I would be able to come out of that relatively easily. If I want to grow and scale up my business, then it's very simple for where I need to focus my time. So there, with a service-based business, there's pretty much nothing that can stop that train from rolling forward. Maybe you'll plateau occasionally, and maybe your business will go down slightly occasionally, but there's nothing that will happen that will just completely come and destroy you. Whereas with e-commerce businesses, I do know a lot of people who have lost a lot of money with e-commerce companies. And they mostly, it's because they've overinvested in marketing. Maybe their market has changed, competitors have come in, and that just has completely taken out their business, where that's very unlikely and close to impossible when it comes to service-based businesses.
Yeah.
And I will say it is definitely a lot easier to build a business that in the e-commerce space that is potentially a very hands-off business. But at the same time, if something in your market changes, then you might lose all that revenue that came in and you'll be back to square one, basically. Mm-hmm. Where with a service-based business, if I wanted to, for some reason, jump to a different niche, I have all these skills that I've built up with building out this empire. And I know with very little, with a very small cash investment, I would be able to grow another agency probably to this level or even higher if I, for some reason, wanted to switch industries. So yeah, it can be difficult. It can seem very daunting to try and systemize an agency, but it definitely can be done, especially if you have someone who really helped me forward with that, like you, Tom, actually. I definitely skipped a lot of the hardships that I would have faced building my agency if we didn't start talking as soon as we did.
Yeah, dude. Well, I really enjoyed like all of our mastermind sessions, and yeah, I was happy that was helpful to you. I think the other thing, like just to touch on that real quick, like I was just like a little bit ahead of Ryan, not like extraordinarily ahead of Ryan, like with where he was in business. I think it's good to form like partnerships and alliances that are like that, because you can still help each other a lot. Like I learned a lot from Ryan as well. But also Ryan did like literally everything that I would like recommend to him or have him like suggest for him to try out. Like he did it, and he just implemented a bunch of shit and was able to iterate really quickly and ultimately turn himself into a beast, man, and create a business that's like really, really powerful. And then just to finish up your point about like the e-com versus service-based businesses, service-based businesses have so much like anti-fragility associated with them. Like if you're offering like services that take a while to put together that nobody really wants to do, there's just always a need there. There's always going to be a need for like different types of service-based businesses. And Ryan's right. Like once you have that skill set, just embrace it, man. Like I never really thought of myself as a service-based business owner in the past, and like always had, you know, the desire to do kind of sexier things. But yeah, it made my life what it is, man. And I think there's a lot to be said for it, man. So good thoughts on that, man. Real quick, dude, let's jump into just talk about, so one of the biggest things that I want people to get out of this interview as well is Ryan still makes a huge portion of his revenue through Upwork and freelancing websites. So could you just talk a little bit about how you've been able to scale your lead gen process through there? Because I think a lot of people shy away from that. You don't have to just be a freelancer to make money off of those sites. You can still leverage that platform to turn it into a big business success like Ryan has.
Yeah, I still bring in a lot of clients from Upwork, and even other agency owners that I've taught this Upwork process to. They still get a ton of their clients from Upwork, because even some big players in the game, maybe they just don't have someone with a very specific skill set that they're looking for. And when they ask their social circle, just nobody really knows who to hire. And then they post a project on Upwork. I've gotten some huge clients from Upwork just because they had no one in their circle to hire. So it's not all cheap people looking for cheap projects. And there's ways that you can filter those people out very early. There's actually a lot of very high quality businesses making millions and millions of dollars a year that just don't have an expert in the industry and want to reach outside their circle to find someone. And that's why they go to a site like Upwork. So that's one of the areas that's why Upwork is just such a consistent revenue generator for us. And we started, when I was starting with doing work on Upwork, I realized that there were a couple areas. I realized that it was taking a lot of my time to go on Upwork and pitch clients on a regular basis. And I needed to slowly systemize that process. And a lot of that was actually taught to me by you. You created a fantastic Upwork process that was, I would say was 80% automated. And then I took that and turned it into a 100% automated process, which was very, very powerful for me. So it all starts with the filtering of projects, because a lot of people, they post on Upwork, but they're not very good clients. And there's very easy ways that you can set your filters on Upwork to find just the good clients in your industry. Or you can set it to find clients who have hired other freelancers on Upwork, who are not asking for small $100 projects, for example, but are asking for actual big projects.
Yep.
So you can set your search filters and also test and find the different keywords that people are looking for when it comes to whatever service you want to provide. For me, there are a lot of keywords around email marketing, and most people, they may hire freelancers regularly on Upwork, but they may not know the right terminology for what you do. So people looking to hire email marketers, they might be looking for ESP services or deliverability experts, when that's not actually what they're looking for. They just want someone to set up email newsletters for them.
And after a while,
So getting those filters,
you
yeah,
like after, like Ryan has so much experience like of applying for jobs. Like after a while, he starts to notice what to look for when people are typing in the wrong things, which becomes a big advantage.
yeah. So that just helps you find some clients that just aren't very good at finding freelancers, but are still very good clients. So the first step to the process is figuring out your filters for who you are looking for on Upwork, and making sure that you are very good at that. I usually only apply for projects on Upwork. Well, actually, now that we have it automated, we're applying every single day to all of the new projects coming in, which is another huge advantage for us. But yeah, so the filters were step number one. Um, Step number two is actually the proposals themselves. And this is something that I think a lot of people get very wrong, where they think they need to make a 100% customized proposal on Upwork and just spend 15 to 30 minutes just really writing into this client's needs, when that's actually not the case. So what we did is, after we figured out those keywords, we saw that within those keywords there was a small number of projects that were a little bit different from each other, but were getting posted regularly. For example, for me, I saw that there were some people looking for newsletter help, some people looking for help getting Klaviyo set up on their website and getting email set up for that. Some people who are already doing well with email marketing that wanted to take it to the next level. And I just found out that there were a few different kinds of posts, where maybe we would see 15 different projects every single day for Upwork.
Yep.
But then 3 of them would fall into getting MailChimp set up, 3 of them would fall into getting email copywriting done, etc. So what we did is we actually created templated proposals around those different types of projects, where for every project, for example, if they were looking for Klaviyo help, we would put in Klaviyo specific examples into a longer proposal. So we would use relatively the same copy and paste proposal for every single client. But one key thing is that we will always customize the intro to the proposal, which is actually done by my sales development rep right now. So all the proposals, so instead of taking 10 minutes to put together a proposal, it takes a smart person 10 seconds to write maybe 2 sentences on the project and customize that intro. And the rest of the proposal is all the same, but because it's for a general type of project like Klaviyo support, and we built it for that specifically, it's much easier for us to pitch those types of projects.
Okay, cool. So like there's probably, I'll probably connect with Ryan again to dig deeper into like his Upwork process, but I think there's some big nuggets that people take out of that. Like one, Upwork is still relevant, so don't stop looking for jobs there. If you're having trouble with lead gen, it could definitely be a place that you go back to. Just make sure you're doing it appropriately. To be as efficient as possible with your time, make sure you're filtering with the appropriate keywords. Try and figure out what keywords some of the people that may be looking for you but are typing in the jobs wrong are typing. So be aware of that. And then the second part of the process is like, I actually used to pitch very customized proposals, but I see what Ryan is saying for sure in terms of just personalize like the first portion and not having to do the bulk of the work on the rest. It's definitely a waste of time to do that by yourself. And then I guess third is just like Ryan has built a process around this where someone else is actually doing all of the proposals. So he doesn't have to mess with the lead gen. He built a system around that. So there's a way that you can do that. And if you guys are interested in hearing more about that, go ahead and just drop a comment below. And then maybe Ryan and I can do like a little bit more of an in-depth kind of breakdown of that in a way that's helpful to people. But that's an awesome share, bro. All right, cool.
I could go into the video proposal process of that just a little bit if you.
Yeah, let's round out the Upwork conversation with that, because that's a really important piece. And then I'll kind of get one more question, and we'll move to the end here for our first jam session.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I would say the last big part of that was the customized video proposals.
Yeah.
Where that's where before how I would do it is I had the system, I would say 90% systemized, where I would have someone who's scraping together all of these different projects, writing the intros to the proposals, and we would actually include in our written longer proposal a link to a video proposal. And I used to do that. I used to do a customized one for every single client. But then I realized that if you record the video right and you're speaking to a more general type of project, for example, just Klaviyo types of projects, you can create a evergreen video proposal. And maybe it won't work as well as a customized video proposal. But if you're sending out 10 or 15 a day and video proposals only work about 80% as well as the rest of them, you are still way ahead of the competition. So I created a few different evergreen videos speaking to specific issues that people commonly post for Upwork. So then my sales rep just has to write the intro, slot in the right proposal video, and send that off. And also they handle all the follow-up and setting up calls. So yeah, it's a very simple process. And yeah, that was the key to my Upwork success, is where everyone thinks that they're getting a very customized proposal, where it's not very customized, but in reality, if you're looking for email setup on Klaviyo, you pretty much always need the same thing. So yeah, it's not really required to create a very customized video for every person who posts.
Yeah, so a lot of what Ryan's talking about, again, is like 80-20, and he's done a really good job of that, but specifically just identifying the most important parts of the proposal process. And just to elaborate, like I actually made a whole course on this, which Ryan was talking about earlier. So if you're interested in checking that out, I'm probably going to redo it to update some of the stuff on there soon. But if you're interested in that, checking that out, just hit me up. The video proposals are a big part of that. People want like some personality to your proposals. So that's still a big component. But again, having to do those customized every single time takes a long time. So doing an 80-20, kind of like Ryan said, where you have like some templates of like maybe big different areas that still more or less fit, that look personalized, I think that can make a big difference and save you a lot of time. Man, there's so much shit I want to go into, but we're not gonna have time for all of it. Like, let's if you had just like some advice for someone that's looking to try and figure out a way to build a business like the one that you have right now. They're trying to go from freelancing and project-based, like strictly project-based work where they're doing like a lot of different things, to what you have right now. You know, what would it be? Like, what would those, like, what are Ryan's words of wisdom? Like, we already talked a lot about your journey, and there's obviously multiple different components involved, but like, what would your quick piece of advice be?
Yeah, I would say the quickest piece of advice is look at everything that you're doing and is taking up all your time during the day. And specifically try and look at the things that you find the least enjoyable or are taking up the most time. Usually those are both the same thing, but sometimes they're different. And once you find those areas, focus in on trying to systemize that area of your business or bring in people to manage that for you, because your enjoyment for the business will drastically scale up the more you can offload these certain areas of your business that you don't really like doing and or take up too much of your time. And that will be the key to you actually scaling up and getting away from project-based work. Don't try and map it out all to start. Just try and bring someone in to help you with those areas of your business. And then you can more slowly build out an agency instead of trying to get it all right at the start. Maybe you'll have to fire some people along the way. Maybe some projects won't work out, but just by being open to that kind of growth, that's what's going to really help you scale up your agency.
Yeah, that actually brought up like one thing that I think is really important to mention as well, is like when you're thinking about building systems and procedures and SOPs, like a lot of people preach SOPs, and um, that's like putting the cart before the horse a lot of times. It's like you can't build out systems and procedures before you actually like know what they are or have them. So do it yourself or do it with other people, and then figure out what's going on, and then try to systematize that. But like what Ryan said is like figure out what's most painful to you, and if you can hire someone just to do that, you're automating through another person. So even if you don't have something written down, like you're offloading that stress, which is the ultimate goal of systems and processes anyway, with a person. So you can systematize and you can automate through people rather than like software, for example, which is another thing that we can talk about at another time, man. But dude, so much gold in here for people, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, always a pleasure, Tommy. I think we'll have to have a follow-up one sometime soon. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm really happy to help out your new and growing audience over here.
Yeah, dude. Well, thanks for being a part of it, man. I hope everybody gets a lot of enjoyment out of this. If you have any like recommendations or further questions, there'll definitely be a follow-up episode at some point with Ryan. So go ahead and drop those below. This dude's a wealth of knowledge. It's also just a super nice human being, which I think goes far in life. And he likes his life. That's like one of the biggest reasons I had him on.
Yeah.
Like he's actually happy doing he's happy in the lifestyle that he's created with one of these types of businesses, and he's also making a lot of money. So like when you can actually marry those things, that's like what this whole group is all about. Otherwise, you know, it's not worth it. So Ryan, thank you again, dude. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll be back at you soon.
Take care, everyone.